Pessoal, o som aí tá legal. Já pode começar, já.
Pode? All right, welcome back to PD Part 2 today for this week. We're really excited to continue our journey with Karen and with our friends from Salvador and Ribeirão. We're being transmitted live to our friends. Actually, Salvador's not going to be live because they're an hour behind, but they'll be able to watch the recording afterwards. But Karen's going to continue on her journey to inspire us through the habits of mind. So we can take this moment to be mindful with the habits, and we'll turn it over to Karen. So thank you, Karen, again.
Thank you. So, you want me to use this? Use this? Yes. Okay. So I think this is for the recording. So, not for you. All right. So, thank you for returning. And we went on a part of a journey on this roadway that I talked about last time. And we started with looking at the reasons and looking at the past and to the future. And then we talked about what are the essential questions, of who are your students becoming because of the teaching and learning that you're doing in the classroom. Then we talked about this, we started talking about the bridge. And so we quickly talked about exploring the meanings, being able to brainstorm, being able to do those word splashes, to be able to expand students' language about what a habit of mind means. Then we moved to have a look at expanding capacities. So this expanding capacities is about what does it look like, sound like, and feel like. And we watched the video of Tom Hanks making fire and talked about what does it look like, sound like, and feel like to assist. And so as we continue on that expanding capacities idea, one of the ideas I've been talking to the group I've been working with over the last couple of days is that there's two main ways you can use the habit of mind. So one is to have the habit of mind what we call center stage. So right in the middle, so you explicitly teach the habit of mind. And just as in a theatre production, you'll have a main character who might be centre stage for a moment. So if we're talking about Cinderella, there are times when Cinderella is the main character and centre stage. But always on our stage, there's someone centre stage, but then there's always what we call the supporting cast. So while Cinderella is centre stage, the ugly sisters might be the supporting cast, or the fairy godmother is the supporting cast. And as soon as the prince comes on the scene, he becomes centre stage, and Cinderella might become the supporting cast, or vice versa. So Cinderella can either be centre stage, or she can be the supporting cast as the fairy godmother comes to the forefront, and we learn all about her, and then Cinderella might join her. So these habits of mind can be the same. you can put the habit of mind center stage, and you can be teaching the habit of mind explicitly. So today we're having a lesson on thinking and communicating with clarity and precision. Or you can have a lesson with the content as your center stage. So your content might be a reading strategy that you're teaching today. So today we're going to learn about a reading strategy. However, the supporting cast is the habit of mind. So the habit of mind is always in your classroom, it's always in your lessons. It just depends whether it's the center stage, and if the habit of mind, by the way, is center stage, what is the supporting cast? It's your content. The content becomes the supporting, supporting cast. So yesterday when I did a model lesson in grade 4, the center stage was striving for accuracy. I did a lesson on wanting the students to strive for accuracy, but the content they were doing that through, or the lesson that perhaps they were learning, was how to measure. So it was a mathematical activity using rulers to measure 1 centimetre apart, but the habit of mind center stage was what we were really focusing on. Are you striving for accuracy? So at any time you can put either, but today we're going to put some of these habits of mind center stage. So what if we put persistence center stage in our classroom environment? What if we had persistence right there in the middle? And there's a wonderful conversation, I believe, when you're talking about persistence that you need to have with your students. And the conversation is this conversation about what I call avoidance. Do you have students who avoid doing the work? Do you have students who need to go to the bathroom when things get hard? To the nurse, they need to go to the nurse. Do you have students who suddenly need to get a drink of water, suddenly randomly in your class? Or they suddenly need to tidy something or find their pencil. And so many of our students, instead of doing the work, will avoid doing the work. So this is the opposite, I guess, of persistence. So if I'm doing a lesson on persistence, I might have a conversation with my students about what is it they do when they avoid the work. And it's fascinating, by the way, when you actually have this conversation, because they know. After grade 2, at least, they know consciously what they're doing. But actually what they think is that you don't know. They think you have no idea about these little strategies. So when I interview students about their avoidance strategies, I have 2 favourites. One is one boy who said, I hide my pencil and then I spend 10 minutes looking for it. He actually does this. And now, that young man, it would be wise for him not to go into the profession of finance and banking. Because that in finance and banking, hiding the money and then looking for it is called embezzlement. Right? It's illegal. So it'd be wise that we choose a different profession for that young man, because he's very skilled at hiding this pencil and looking for it. Another young man said to me, he said, I copy over the work I did yesterday. And when the teacher comes close, I sit and look like I'm thinking. So children will come up with all these strategies to avoid doing the work. And we just need to have an explicit conversation about what do they need to be able to do. Yesterday, Monday, we brainstormed some persistence strategies. So we need to revise them with them. We need to go back over them. We need to have a chart on the wall so that they can say, oh, here's what I need to do to persist, so that we help them to do that. Now, a wonderful teacher in New Zealand thought very hard about this with his grade 5 and 6 class. And he created what he calls the road to success is paved with persistence. And so I will leave this slide with you. Unfortunately, fortunately, I have permission to show you this. Unfortunately, you do not have permission to copy it. You do have permission, however, to use the idea. And you'll see why in a minute. Because he thought very long and hard about his children in his classroom and what they did to avoid doing work. And he depicted it as this roadway, as this path towards success. However, we get sidetracked. There are side streets that we tend to go down. So some of the side streets are things like Joke Valley. You have students who just make a joke of it. I think if I laugh and make it funny, then I won't have to do it. Or we have Temptation Alley, particularly when they have devices in the classroom, right? It's like, oh, well, the teacher's not watching, I'll go play my game now. So they get tempted to do things that are going to stop them working. What about Don't Start Land? You have children who don't start, they get stuck in Don't Start Land. Or Boredom Town. I'm bored. So they think they don't have to do it. Do you have this one? Class Clownville. You have class clowns, people who be silly in your class thinking if they be silly then they don't have to do the work. Half Done Hill. It's half done. Pain Central. This is the nurse, right? This is the, oh, my tummy hurts, I need to go to the nurse. So Pain Central. Then we get to Competition Land. I'll try and be quicker or faster or better than somebody else. Now, Competition Land can be a good thing because if we want them to get into being better than they were before, they can be in competition with themselves. They might go to Mount Metacognition and think about their thinking, or they might go to Fascination Land. Remember my son in grade 11 taking physics, and he said, Mum, physics is so boring. I don't understand what the teacher is saying. And I said, why don't you try and go and get fascinated by physics? He came back a week later and he said to me, I've tried to get fascinated by physics, but it's not fascinating. And then we want to get them to this Mount Success, where the progress, where the success happens, where the learning happens. So somewhere along this journey to get sidetracked. So please turn to the person next to you and talk to them about when your children in your classroom, what gets them sidetracked from doing what they need to be doing. Tell the person next to you. Go.
Yes, they're trying to like a surprise. Imagine if it's working or not. And then yes. Now
And thank you. And thanks. So let's take another habit of mine and put it center stage for a moment. What if we were putting metacognition, thinking about our thinking, center stage in our classroom environment? So there's a couple of important things to know when we're putting metacognition center stage. And so the first one is to understand that we need to give time for students to think. If you want them to be thinkers, it takes time. And so we talk about wait time, providing time for us as teachers waiting. And there's 3 times we wait in a classroom. But just before I tell you the 3 times we wait in a classroom, here's what the average teacher does. And this was a study from many years ago. The average teacher, when they ask a question, do one of 3 things. They either answer the question within 1 second, they call upon somebody to answer the question within 1 second, or they ask a new question within 1 second. Now, 1 second is not enough time for thinking to occur. And I know this because when I say to my husband, honey, have you seen my keys? He says no. And I say, sweetheart, you married to Karen Boyes. You had no think time. Because as soon as I ask that question, he just goes, no. Because he doesn't want to think. And perhaps, I know there's someone in the room who will say, why is it his responsibility to know where the keys are? And whoever you are, sir, I get it. All right? But however, for me to give him think time, I have to ask the question in a different way. So I say this, sweetheart, before you answer this question, can you think, as you've been through the house today, have you seen my keys? And he'll go, they're on the kitchen table. I'm like, thank you. So I have to give him think time. Now, there's gentlemen in the room now sitting there thinking, please, I'm not married to her. But our family often become the target of our practice of these techniques. So when we wait in a classroom, what the research says is we want to wait between 7 and 10 seconds. It's a long time to be quiet in the classroom, isn't it? It's a really long time. And the first time you do this, the smaller students will say, don't you know the answer? Because they're used to you putting the answers in very quickly. Or they will say, have you been on a training course? Is this a technique you're using? And they'll be wondering what you're doing. So we wait 7 to 10 seconds. Now, a colleague of mine in Australia says, you wait until it hurts, and then you wait some more. And I can guarantee when you wait, students will fill that space. So it's actually a high-level negotiating technique. That when they get to the high-level negotiation and the offer is put on the table and it's tense, the first person to speak loses. So if you're the negotiator and you put the offer on the table, you have to be quiet and wait for the other person to speak and say yes or no. So because if the negotiator speaks first, they will lose. So it's a high-level negotiating strategy. However, in the classroom, we just want to provide that time. So you take that breath, I wiggle my toes, I count to 10, and if I still haven't had anything at 10, it's very rare. If I still haven't had anything at 10, I will say, I will come back to you. I'll ask somebody else and I'll come back to you. And never let children off the hook of thinking. So I always come back. Okay, now I want to allow you to watch this video. So if you're right at the side, you might want to shuffle in so you can see the screen. This is a very old video, and but what he's showing is what happens in a classroom when we don't use wait time, when we don't give thinking time. And he's using some language that possibly we don't use now. He's talking about learning disabled students, and these are the parents or the teachers of students who have challenges in school. So as we watch, have a look at some of the strategies or the lack of strategies and the result of those strategies. So let me just check that the sound is up. Yes, and here we go.
When you get hurt, but you will get a chance to see what it's like to be with a disabled child. What color is a book, Carol? What does it say on the book with that kid? What does it stand for, Carol? What does it stand for, Carol? You don't know. What does it say? It says at the bottom of the book, what does it stand for? Frustration, anxiety, and tension. It's frustration, anxiety, and tension. What kind of animals top of the page, Carol? Turn to the next page. What color is the first page, Jane? What does it say in the first page, Carol? The first page, Carol. Earthy Carol, come in, please. The first page. Earthy Carol, come in, please. Raise your hand if you thought that was funny. Yeah, everybody likes that except who? Except Carol. Anytime there was a teacher or a parent deciding to use sarcasm with kids, understand that you created a victim. Now that little throwaway line that I threw at Carol, I will forget within 5 minutes, you will forget within 5 minutes, but it's very likely to stay with Carol for the rest of the day. Those little throwaway sarcasms we use. Jody, what color is the first page? What does it say, Lee? Is that what it says, Stephanie? Turn to the next page. What color is the next page, Lee? Yellow. What kind of animals top of that page, Jody? Tiger. That's not a tiger, Carol. What kind of animals top of that page? It's a cat. Tell the story with the cat, Maria. Tell the story with the cat. Tell the story with the cat, Maria. Tell the story with the cat. Give me one famous story with the cat, Maria. Okay, does anxiety affect performance? Does anxiety affect performance? Of course it does. According to this, Maria doesn't know one story with a cat. Give Maria a call tomorrow, she'll give you 30 of them. But in this situation, with the anxiety we've created already, with the anxiety that we've created in a short period of time, Maria's unable to get that information out. Maybe start with the cat, Carol.
Little kittens.
Maybe start with the cat, Carol. Maybe start with the cat, Carol. Maybe start with the cat, Carol. Melissa? Aaron? Kim? Derek? Okay, let's take a look at what's happened now. I accepted the answer I don't know from Kelly. What were the next 4 answers that I got in a row? I don't know. See, you have to really put this under a microscope and look at this. You people have been learning disabled now for 6 minutes, and many of you have quit. Not 6 years, not 16 years, the way the LP child lives, but 6 minutes. And many of you, once I began accepting the answer I don't know, how many of you decided to be called on me? I'm going to say I don't know. What do you think? If you're going to accept I don't know as an answer, I'm going to stop trying to think of a response and I'll just say I don't know. Okay, Jody, what kind of animal was that? Talk about page again? Cat. What kind of animal was that, lady? Duck. Stephanie, what kind of notes did the duck make? Maybe start with the duck and Nancy. Maybe start with the duck and Jared. You're already from words and Nancy. Maybe start with the duck and Maybe start with the duck and one. Maybe start with the duck and one famous story with the duck and maybe start with the duck and maybe not a lot of thought, Aaron. Maybe start with the duck and one famous story with the duck and Nancy, you one.
Yeah, you think he's better than I am. I can't think.
Okay, turn to the person next to you and just tell them what you saw on the video. Go, what did you see? What did you learn? Sharp. And thank you. So, a couple of things you saw with that fear, frustration, and anxiety, how we just can't think. And so we keep asking and asking. So how many times do you find yourself saying to the students, come on, what are you going to write about? What are you going to write about? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And we just keep on and on and on, but we need to give them that space to be able to focus about what they're going to write about today. The little, when we accept, I don't know. As soon as we accept that, students will start giving you more answers of I don't know. So I, again, never accept that. So again, I will say, okay, take some more time to think and I'll ask 2 more people and I will come back to you. So I'm continually wanting them to upskill themselves, and it's the high expectations, as Ron Richard talks about, that are really important in our classroom. Now, there's some phrases I use in the classroom that help with this. And so the first one is to help them manage their impulsivity is often I say in a moment, but not quite yet. Have you ever said to students, right, we're going outside and then we're going to, where are they? They're gone. Or today we're going to use the puzzles and then we're going, and they've already gone to get the puzzles because they haven't managed their impulsivity. But all they're doing is following your instruction. But instead, what if you said, in a moment, but not quite yet, we're going to go outside? It's a very invisible little signal to the brain that says, wait. Please wait, and then you can go. So, lovely little phrase. Here's another one. So I hear myself saying this to students a lot. If you were following these instructions correctly, what would you be doing? So often we give students instructions. We say, right, step 1, step 2, step 3, go. And then they haven't had any time to process. So give them the instructions and then say, what would you be doing if you're following these correctly? The third one, which I hear myself saying a lot in a classroom when I'm teaching somebody else's class, is this. What I'm interested in is that not that you're the first to answer. I'm interested in that you've taken the time to answer. Think about your answer. Because children have unwittingly think it's all about being first. So you ask a question in the classroom and it's like, but what kind of thought has gone into that question when your hand goes up so fast? So instead, I say to the children, I'm interested in you being first. And by the way, the reason they put their hand up so fast is because you have been calling upon the children to put their hands up first. You have rewarded that behaviour over and over again. So instead, I say to them, I'm not interested that you're the first. I'm interested that you've taken the time. So I want to give them the time to focus and the time to play. Right. Now, we might also, if we're talking about metacognition, we need to give them the time. You notice there are other habits of mind involved in that. But we also might use what we call think aloud problem solving, or TAPS, think aloud problem solving. And so if we want students to be aware of their own thoughts, we want them to be able to do it out loud. Now, young children do this automatically, don't they? They talk out loud as they're talking because that's the only way they know how to do it. And after a while, that voice becomes internal. Just like when we start to teach them to read, they read out loud, and then we ask them to take that voice and be internal. So, but now we want to take the thinking and bring it external again so they can be aware and others can be aware of what's going on. So, I'm going to give you a puzzle, a thinking problem, and ask you to solve this problem. So, are you ready? Here it is. Please add these numbers. And, oh, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's add those numbers. Okay, now, whether you've added them or not, if we've got an answer or not, doesn't matter. But right now, we're going to talk about metacognition. Now, when we're talking about metacognition, we're not actually interested in the right answer, interested in the thinking. However, you're human beings, and what do we like to be? Right. You ever had an argument, and halfway through the argument, you realise you're wrong? What do? You keep going, don't you? It's like, I'm still right, even though you know you're wrong. So we have this innate desire as human beings to be right. So let's get the answer out of the way to start with. The answer is 55. So, got that right, you can pat yourself on the back or not, doesn't matter. I'm not interested in that. Here's what I'm interested in. What was the thinking process? So, what I'd like you to do first is turn to the person next to you and just describe for them your thinking process. How did you add those numbers? So tell them how you did it. Go. So, please share with me what was your strategy. So please share with me a strategy. Who's going to share? So you give me an example.
91, 82.
Okay. So you went. Which way did you start? Did you go
9 and 1.
Okay, so you did 91, 8 and 2, 7 and 3, and so you had 5 left over, and then what did you do? Okay, added the 5 to what? I'm trying to just get the process.
To the 10.
Yeah, so how many 10s, did you count out how many 10s you had? Okay, so she went 10, 20, did you go 30, 40, 50, plus 5.
Yeah.
That's how you did it. Okay, thank you. Who had a different strategy? You had a different strategy, yes. What did you do? Okay, so you applied some past knowledge and didn't actually do any figuring out at all. Okay, thank you. Who had a different strategy?
I just added it 1 plus 2.
Why?
Because it's simple and it's easier for me not to get lost.
Okay, so you started from the top and went down to the bottom of the circle. Anyone else do it a different way? Thank you. From the bottom to the top. So you went from the bottom to the top. Thank you. Anyone else do it a different way? Well, there's at least 5 different strategies you could have used. So we've got 3 of them. So you can add from the top to the bottom. You might have added from the bottom to the top. We've got this one, so the group of 10s. You can also group in 11s, 10 and 1, 9 and 2, 8 and 3. So you could have grouped in 11s. And if we had a maths teacher here, they would probably know that there's a mathematical formula for adding sequential numbers. And they might have used the mathematical formula. So there are many different strategies. None of those strategies are right and none of those strategies are wrong. They're all strategies. And it's important that we help children understand there are many different strategies, because when strategy A fails, they need to go to strategy B. And when that fails, we need strategy C, D, and E. Now, if we only have one strategy, it limits our learning. Also, in the classroom, We saw this in a classroom in the United States. The teacher had been given a practice test for the test that was tomorrow. So, practice test for the test that was tomorrow. And it was a maths test. It was a timed 20-minute test. And what the teacher did was she timed the children for their 20 minutes. And then when the 20 minutes was up, she said, put your pencils down and pick up the blue pencil from the middle of your table and continue the test. What the teacher wanted to know was how much can they do in 20 minutes? But she also wanted to know, but how much can they do? Just because you finished the 20 minutes is up doesn't mean they can't answer the other questions, correct? So she wanted to know. Now, when they'd all finished the test, she got the students to sit knee to knee, face to face, and compare strategies. So, not the answers. Now, the first boy said, well, the first question was 11 take away 9. He said, so I drew 11 strokes at the top of my page, and I crossed out 9, and I counted how many were left, so the answer is 2. The second boy said, well, I knew that 11 was 1 more than 10, and I knew that 9 was 1 less than 10, so I added those two numbers together, so the answer was 2. Now, they both got exactly the same answer. However, in a timed test, who's going to get the highest mark? The second boy. Why? He's got a faster strategy. And a faster strategy means he will answer more questions, which means he'll get a higher score on the test. Doesn't mean he's more intelligent. No, he's not any more intelligent than the other boy. He's just got different strategies and faster strategies. So, nothing to do with intelligence. But of course, our students see their test scores as a reflection of intelligence. It's not. It's a reflection of their strategy. So, in the classroom, you want to model your thinking. So if you are doing a writing activity, you want to be able to model your thinking about what it is you are thinking about. For instance, I saw a teacher writing a passage up on the chart paper and said John. And then she said, you know, I don't think he really said that. I think he was angry when he said that. So if he was angry, I'm going to cross out the word said. I'm going to write shouted John. And you know, if he's going to shout, what's that special little mark we put at the end of a sentence if somebody is shouting? And, oh yes, an exclamation mark. So she puts in the exclamation mark. And so she's thinking about the thinking as, or modelling the thinking as she is showing the children. Because of course, children often see the final product of your thinking. They don't see the thinking behind your thinking. So we need to model that thinking so they say, oh, that's what they do. For instance, I've noticed that when you're working on a Word document now, as opposed to when you just have to handwrite, when you're working on a Word document and you spell something wrong, what happens? You get the wiggly red line. And I've noticed every time I get a wiggly red line, well, what do you do when you get the wiggly red line? Do you stop and correct? But the problem is I stop and correct, and then I can't remember what I was writing. So I've been teaching students to turn off the wiggly red lines and just write. And then go back, turn them on, and now you can edit. Because that's what real writers do. I've been participating in a program where you have to write for half an hour a day. Half an hour. Every day. I just have to write. No editing, no anything. Just write. And a friend of mine has just written a novel in 30 days by writing 2 hours a day. That's all she did. Just no editing, nothing, just writing. And I discovered when I just write, I get so much more done. And she wrote a novel in that time. So that's 50,000 words in a month. That's a lot of words to write a small novel. So turn it off, but model your thinking so that they know what happens in the real world so that they can do that too. You might also ask this question: who has another way to solve this? Who has another way? Who has another way? So wanting your students to come up with lots of different strategies. Okay. Let's put another habit of mind center stage, and let's put in responsible risk taking. So there are times we want our students to learn how to take these responsible risks. And I was working with a maths teacher, and she said to me, do you know, she said, my students, when they come to a problem in math, just stop. They don't know how to do it, they just stop, and they never continue. And she said, which habits of mind do my students need to help them with their math? And I said, well, let's have a look. So we looked at the chart with all the habits of mind on it. And she said, do you know, I think they need to think flexibly. I think they need to come up with another strategy. So I'm going to encourage them to think flexibly. I said, are there any more habits? And she said, as we go, I want them to draw on their past knowledge with their problem solving in math. Because I want them to be able to say, hey, I've solved a problem like this before. What did I do then? Or I've solved a problem similar to this. What did I do then? So she wanted them to do that. And then she said, do you know, I think the real strategy that's going to really help my students is to take a responsible risk and try it even if they're not sure. Now, here's what the teacher did on our coaching. She encouraged the students that when they came to a problem they didn't know how to solve or didn't think they knew how to solve, they would simply write R in the margin. It stands for responsible risk. It's a secret signal to the teacher. I'm not sure what I'm doing right now, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. And so children would write R in the margin and give it a go. Now here's what she found. She found that when she asked these children to write R in the margin, 9 times out of 10, they got it correct. Now, she thinks, as a teacher, that what is centre stage in her classroom is maths content. But that's not right. That's not true. What is centre stage in her classroom is being able to take a responsible risk. Because if the students learn in her class through math that when they take a responsible risk, 9 times out of 10, they will get it right. That's powerful, isn't it? Got nothing to do with the math content, but she's doing it. Math is the supporting cast. So, what is the supporting cast and what is the centre stage for you? And by the way, you can use this strategy in many subjects. If they don't know how to spell a word, R. If they don't know how to say the word, particularly when they are learning to speak English, they might have a little signal that they can show you, hey, R. It might be this sign language for R that you teach them. And they're going, I'm not sure, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. So little ways to help them to become more confident to try that. So centre stage was the habit of mind in that particular classroom. So please turn to the person next to you and talk about how might you put a habit of mind centre stage and how might you use the habits of mind as supporting cast to be able to help your students become more successful. Go. And finish up. And cue. So we move along the bridge now, and again, it's not a linear process, but more of a process that we keep spiraling in and out and around and through these. But we move to increasing alertness. And this is what we call the keystones in the bridge, because this is the most important stone in the bridge. If you remove this stone in this bridge, what will happen? It will collapse, right? So it's holding the whole bridge together. It's also the hardest stone to put in. And so it was a carefully guarded secret handed down through generations of bridge and stonemasons to be able to how to insert this keystone. So we want to increase alertness. Can you see it in yourself? Can you see it in others? Can you understand what's going on as for your learners? Then you want to extend the value. So, okay, we know it's important, but so we know to have it in mind, but why would I use it? So we want to extend the value, and we want to build commitment by setting goals to get better. And so you'll be next year doing some work around these to deepen your understanding and some of your skills as well. But on that roadway to success, we come to this part which is called repetition. And there's sort of like this imaginary line on the pathway to success, because you start off with your reason, and you get your resources, and then you have your rules on how to do this. And then we get to this repetition. It means we actually have to do something. We might know what we want to do, why we want to do it, and how we're going to do it, but actually now we actually need to do it. And so repetition, this takes effort. And many times we have students who don't want to put any effort in. It's too hard, it's like too frustrating. In the model lesson I did yesterday, students were gorgeous when they started getting frustrated. Purposely gave them something that might be too hard for them, and the frustration level started to rise. And it's that repetition that's important. So now, Michael McQueen at the Teachers Matter Conference a couple of years ago said this: Generation Y and beyond have been raised to believe life is easy. Because life is easy for them, isn't it? Life is easy for your children. They have people doing things for them all the time. It's easy. And the problem with that is they don't know how to do hard anymore, because they've never had to. So we need to teach them how to do hard. And this is one of my favourite signs. It was on the back of a bus. It says, to get to easy, you have to go through hard. Think about when a child learns to walk. They have to wobble around, fall over, get back up. Is there any time a parent would say to their child, you've fallen over too many times, you're a failure at walking, stop trying? Does anyone ever say that to a child? No. You just know they're going to learn to walk. Some of them learn to walk at 9 months. Some of them take to 18 months. Nothing wrong with them. It just takes time, individual time and practice. My son was the child who waited until he could walk until he did. So he didn't try until he knew he could, which was really weird to watch. It's like, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And he's like, I'm waiting. Somewhere in his psyche, he's like, I don't want to fall down, I'm just going to wait. Whereas my daughter was banging into furniture and knocking things over, and she was like desperate to keep up with her older brother, so she's like trying, being persistent. Having conversations about failure, of course, is important, because our students often don't want to make mistakes. It's what they've been punished for. So this fail means the first attempt in learning. So understanding that, when you put effort in, you might fail, but that's part of the learning process. It is part of the learning process. I bet you have beautiful butterflies here in Brazil, do you? Beautiful butterflies. This is a New Zealand butterfly. It's called the monarch butterfly. And do you have one similar? Maybe not. So the monarch butterfly, did you know, if you help it out of the chrysalis, it will die. Because it's the struggle as it comes out of the chrysalis that allows its wings to strengthen and allows it to fly. So, it's same in our classrooms. The struggle makes you strong. So as teachers, when we stop rescuing and allow students to struggle, and being okay with them struggling when we framed it up by this is how learning happens, it is a struggle. Because the problem we have is in the classrooms, if we don't teach students about hard, if we don't teach them about struggle, if we don't teach them about challenge and difficulty, and then give them the skills, the habits of mind to be able to deal with that, what happens when they leave the safety of our walls and something hard happens? Yeah, they get frustrated, they get angry, they lash out, they do whatever they need to do to be able to get by, but they need to know. And so in a safe environment, it's important that we create that environment that allows them to struggle. So when I teach teenagers how to study and pass exams, the most important study tip I can ever teach them, of all the hundreds that I teach, is study tip number 3, which is learn the information you don't know. What most students do is go and study what they already know. That's not learning, that's revising. Studying is learning what you don't know. Now, to study what you don't know, it's hard because you don't know it. And what most students do is they go and revise what they know. Let me ask you this. Who here is a list writer? Who writes lots of lists? To-do lists? Thank you. Is there anybody here who has ever gone to cross something off your list and it's not there? What do? You write it on the list just so you can cross it off. No logical reason for this, is there? But there is a physiological reason. Because when you cross something off your list, it sends endorphins through your brain, making you feel good. This is why students like doing what they can already do. It makes them feel good. Gosh, I'm clever. Gosh, I'm amazing. I'm so cool. I've got this. That's not learning. The little voice of learning actually sounds very different. The voice of learning is, this is hard. This is difficult. What if they find out I'm not as smart as they think I am? What if I fail? That's actually the voice of learning. So having conversations with your students about the voice of learning is important. And this is the ability to have that metacognition, to be able to hear what's going on inside the head and notice and understand. There's nothing wrong with the child. But often the children think, oh, there must be something wrong with me because everyone else can do it. And that's not true. Everyone else is also thinking this is hard, this is difficult, but we'll keep smiling, pretending we know what we're doing. I think we should just, as teachers, particularly, I think we should just face up and tell everybody we're all making it up. Isn't that true? Yeah. We're all making it up. None of us know the answers. We're all just making it up every single day. So, we also want to provide feedback for our students on the use of their habits of mind, on the use of the strategies and techniques and the learning so that they can continually grow. And we know this as educators. So, there's some certain things around this praise and feedback that we need to make sure we get. So making sure it's very specific. Only giving feedback that helps them learn. So giving some feedback to help them learn. That's the purpose of the feedback. Is it something they can then bounce from and learn from? And cause more learning. And we also need to make sure our feedback is non-judgmental. So we're going to show you another video. You may have seen this. And so this is called Austin's Butterfly. It's one of my favorite videos. And I want you to watch how he helps students. Now, he's not using the habits of mind terminology, but you're going to hear the habits of mind in what he says. And you would just do something similar, but actually explicitly use it. Now, I'm going to ask you at the end, what was center stage and what was the supporting cast? So, what is center stage and what was the supporting cast? So, you ready?
This is a story called Austin's Butterfly. And it's a true story about a first grade boy. And his name is Austin. And he goes to school, or he used to go to school, in a town called Boise, Idaho.
And in his class in Boise, Idaho, they were studying butterflies and he had to do a project. His job in first grade was to draw a butterfly. And this is the butterfly that he picked. Austin had to use this photograph as his model, and he had to draw an accurate scientific drawing of this butterfly. This is called the tiger swallowtail. And can you tell Toby why it's called tiger?
Because it kind of has the stripes of the tiger right there.
Good. So here was Austin's job. He was supposed to do a scientific drawing of that butterfly. But remember, Austin was only in first grade. And you know what he did? He forgot to look like a scientist carefully. He got his paper and he just started to draw the image of a butterfly that he had in his head. And he wasn't looking like a scientist. And so this is what he drew. It's not bad, and it is a butterfly. But does it look exactly like this? No, it doesn't yet. It doesn't look exactly like this yet. Luckily, this wasn't a regular school where Austin went. It was an expeditionary learning school, just like her son's got school. And so they didn't look at this and say, good, Austin, you're done. They said, Austin, good start. Now we can start giving you critiques, and you can do a second draft and make it better, and a third draft and make it better, and you can make it much, much closer to this. And he was ready to go. All of the first graders in his critique group sat on the floor like you guys are. And they decided to split their advice into two kinds. First, just the shape of the wings. And then when the shape was right, they give them advice about the pattern inside the wings. Elliot, what would you say?
To make it much pointier.
Good. These wings could be much pointier. Who else would add something to Todd? What would you say?
About the angle, because not to be mean about the angle, it's just not exact. So
Okay, so show me, come on up there, Todd. Show me what you would ask them to do slightly different.
like to make it a little longer.
Longer where? Draw where you would do it.
Right there.
Okay, so pull this out longer.
Yeah.
That's very specific, in fact. Thank you. Jamila, what would you say?
It's like triangle.
Good. Jamila, I love that. So you're saying more like a triangle shape. And I agree. Well, you know what? Those first graders came up with most of those same ideas. And you know what Austin said? He said, okay, I'll go try. And he went back to his seat and he drew this. Does this look more like a triangle? Yeah. Did he go out further, like Natasha suggested?
Yeah.
Did he add some jaggedness here? Like Cindy, did he get rid of that bottom thing?
Yeah.
So he did listen to his friends and he made it better. It's not perfect. Tell me, what would you say?
I'd say don't put those little tail things so pointed in. I'd say put them more pointed down.
Good. Okay, Ethan, what would you say?
I'd say you should make the wings like this, not like this.
Okay, he listened to his friends and they said, this is really a lot better, Austin. That second draft really is better.
And they can make the third one.
Good, maybe he could make a third draft. And so he did this draft.
That's the third draft.
That's his third draft, Abby. That's just right. Elijah, what do you notice there?
Well, one wing's more pointed than the other, and that side is a little bit higher.
Good. Over.
Right here, it doesn't have the inside stuff.
Ah, okay. Needs a little bit more of that notch. So, do you think maybe he should do a fourth draft?
Yeah.
Well, that's just what he said. He said, shoot, okay, I got round again. I'll go back and do a fourth draft. Listen. Does it look more even like Elijah was suggesting?
That's
Yeah. And does it look like it's coming out sharper, like he was suggesting? And look, as Zach was saying, it's a little bit angle, it looks a little better. So now Austin was feeling really good. He said, am I ready to add some pattern? And I said, okay, why don't you try adding some of the pattern? And we did.
this color. He is so good.
And then they said, Austin, you're ready for color. Let's look at his last draft. And what do you think? Did it come out really good? Yeah. Let me show you where he started, just to give you a quick reminder. And then, what do you think about how much progress he made? In fact, what would you say about his progress?
made like a lot of progress. He persevered doing it. His friends were honest with him.
What was it about the kinds of advice that they gave that allowed him to get better each time? Did they say it's just wrong, or were they more specific?
They were more specific, but they weren't mean about it. They fix traps.
And so is that something that other kids should learn from? What should we learn from that?
He can make other drafts if it's not right.
Good. So if it's not right, you can keep doing more drafts to make it better.
You just don't use things in your head. You want to use sharp eye.
Good. He used the eyes of a scientist. Great.
Okay, turn to the question next to you, please, and talk about what was center stage and what was the supporting cast. Go. And please let him finish up. So what was center stage? What was center stage in that lesson? What was center stage? What was the key when they were teaching? Striving for accuracy. It was about striving for accuracy to draw a scientific drawing. That's what they were doing. So we didn't necessarily use the habits of mind terms, but he said we're going to do strive for accuracy to create a scientific drawing. So that was center stage. Well, what was the supporting cast? Assisting, thinking interdependently and working with others to get feedback. Thank you. To listen with the understanding of what the students were giving the feedback for, and to be able to use that to be more accurate. So notice that even though the content was a scientific drawing, the habits of mind were both center stage and supporting cast. So there was still content there, because you can't teach nothing. There's always content. But the habits of mind are also always there. So being able to help articulate that for your students so they can see, these are the ones that I am using. So thank you. By the way, if you've written criteria for students, if you've got criteria about what a good essay looks like or what a good piece of work is going to look like in exemplars, there is no reason why you can't train any of your students to be doing this. If you've got criteria, you can say to students, go and have a look at the criteria and look at your partner's work and see if you can find where they've been doing it, where they're not doing it, and give them some feedback. So I've seen this with the grade 10 class, English class. The English teachers often say to students, hand me in your essay 3 weeks early before it's due, and I will give you some feedback. Then they give it back and they say, hand it to me again next week. And sometimes English teachers get an essay 3 times to give feedback on. Now, I have a mantra that says, never work harder than your students. You've got 20 students all giving you essays, and you've got to mark them or give them feedback 3 times. You don't have a life as a teacher, but what are your students doing? Well, it's the opposite. They're having a life while you're doing all the work. So teach the students how to give feedback. And I had a teacher do action research project on that last year with some incredible results of students doing all the feedback while she went and had a life. And the quality of the essays was far bigger than she'd ever imagined. Because then we want to get to these results and to get to the success we want our students at. And what's important when we do this is that they see that they're getting better. And we need what we call growth over time. My daughter goes to an alternative school where they celebrate what we call Matariki. And so in New Zealand, Matariki is the Maori New Year. It coincides with the shortest day of the year. And for us, that's the 21st, 22nd of June, right? June, yes. July, no, June. 21st, 22nd of June. And it's the middle of winter in New Zealand then, so it's cold. And they do what they call a lantern festival. So every child makes a lantern and they have this beautiful festival. And if you're interested, it is exquisite to understand how they do it and what they do. I've written a blog about it. But essentially every year, my daughter comes home and says, I'm not going to the festival. And I'm like, why not? She says, because my lantern sucks. My lantern's stupid. My lantern is not as good as Holly's. Now, I should tell you about Holly in her classroom. Holly is a natural born artist. Holly is better than the art teacher. So when we recently had a school festival, another school festival, there were big signs and posters all around the community, which were different than I'd ever seen before. And I said, who did those posters? To be told, Holly did them. My daughter's class, when they do school plays, their backgrounds, their backdrops are exquisite because Holly does them. The costumes are exquisite because Holly does them. She's just one of these naturally talented artists. So she's like, mine's not as good as Holly's. I'm not going. So every year, I've had, since kindergarten, I've had to have this conversation. I don't care about Holly's, I want to see yours. And of course, every year she goes to that festival. And after years of making a lantern every year, when we got to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th time, I'm not going because my lantern sucks. It's not as good as Holly's. Takes time. I got the lanterns out and said, look, these are your kindergarten lanterns. Here's your class 1, class 2, class 3 lantern. Look how much better you are getting at your lanterns. And then she then was able to put her new lantern beside and say, oh, I am getting better. Because sometimes they don't see their own growth. And so we need to celebrate all the successes, the big ones, the tiny ones, the small ones, the minute ones. We need to celebrate all those successes and help our students stop and look back at what they've achieved. Because when I was working in the grade 3 classroom yesterday, you know, those children had challenges answering some of my questions in English. But do they really understand how far they've come? Because you said they really didn't have any English when they came at the beginning of the year. And they've done so well. But do they still just go, I can't speak English? Because somebody said to me a couple of days ago, I was talking to one of the teachers here who said, my English isn't very good. And I'm like, it sounds pretty good to me. And what people, when they say that, I've come to realise, what people, when they say that to me, mean is, it's not perfect. Well, guess what? English is my first, second and third language, and mine's not perfect either. In fact, it's probably not as good as yours, because I didn't learn all the form and function of English, I just speak it. Although my big win yesterday was a beautiful boy in grade 4 who turned to me and said, your English is beautiful. I was like, I want to take you home. I'm like, I was really pleased because I don't have another option. So he was gorgeous. So we want them to see, go back and have a look. Have a look. What have they done? How much have they progressed? So we can do this through the habits of mind. And what we might do is use rubrics and portfolios and artworks and journals and writing samples and interviews. There are many different ways to be able to do this. And often in the Habits of Mind, one of the great ways is to interview a child at the beginning of the year and say, tell me what it means to manage your impulsivity. And you get a little video footage of what it means, and then you do it 6 months later or a year later. Tell me what it means to manage your impulsivity. You should be able to compare those two videos and see, and then they can see, gosh, that's what I used to think it was, now I think this, so that they can see their own growth as well. So, you might have checklists. So a checklist is just how regularly I do. Stick to something when the answer isn't obvious. How regularly do I follow methods and processes when solving problems? How regularly do I find other ways to approach a problem when stuck, etc. So you can have a checklist of the behaviours you want students to be able to develop and get them to mark. I often do it, I sometimes do it, or not yet. You might have rubrics, and so they can self-assess. I might have the novice level, the apprentice level, the practitioner, or the expert. So where am I on the rubric? And by the way, when they start looking at the rubric, it will give them other strategies, because it says down here, gives up easily and quickly on difficult tasks. But up here it says, does not give up no matter how difficult it is to find the answers to solutions, evaluates the use of a variety of strategies to stay on task. Which, by the way, a variety of strategies means we're now thinking flexibly. So none of these habits stand alone. So, but it gives them strategies to be able to learn how to do it. So giving them rubrics and talking about that is another way to do this. You might collect artwork. Here is a beautiful child at grade 1 who says you don't call out at assembly if you lose a tooth, you wait till assembly is over. Yeah, let's go like that. Yeah, so there's you managing your impulsivity, right? So it's gorgeous. Here's another one. The most important thing I learned at kinder was restraining our impulsivity. How cute is that? And here's the child trying to write it down. And apple for the teacher, maybe manage their impulsivity. By the way, we were talking, I was talking to the group today, sometimes when children manage their impulsivity, you don't see it, because they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything, they're just managing their impulsivity. So sometimes it's not obvious. So that's when the discussion and the conversation is really important. Yeah. Can you read that? Isn't it lovely? So we have a commitment to growth here. So the part on the bridge and the understanding that it was very long and very hard, but I did it. So here we've got some understanding, and we can see the growth in these students when we keep their reflections. Here's another one. So keeping little reflections of students of what they're doing, where they're at, what they're thinking about their habits of mind and how they might improve them is another way to do that. So we can see that growth over time. When we're talking about metacognition, this is a fun one to keep growth over time in a portfolio for students. And so here is a young child that says, I figured it out in my brain. Yeah. So here they know, we already know they know they've got a brain, and they know it's for figuring out. So that's an early stage of metacognition. Then here we've got another one. She's solving a problem, and I love this. Forget it. So try the strategy, doesn't work. So she says, I got 30 cents because I made columns, and then I put one in each column till I got to 18, and then they all had nickels, so I counted Jenny's nickels, and she got 30. So here we can see the thinking behind the problem solving now. So we want to see that growth over time. Or this one. Before I show you this, do you ever groan when you hear a teacher say, right, we're going to do word problems now. Or you've got a problem to solve. But this is a maths problem. And the question was, explain how you get 4 times 3. Explain that. So, first you read and try and answer. Then you think in your brain what the answer could be. What's that called? You think in your brain what the answer could be. Predicting, estimating, right? Estimating and predicting. We're going to predict what's going to be around this. So, if you need help, get the beads and get out your sheet with boxes. If you need your fingers, also that is fine. So there's 3 strategies right here, right? Beads, the boxes, and your fingers, right? If you put 3 times 4, it equals the same answer. So now we've got some higher metacognition, understanding that they're the same. All right. Here's another one. This is a word problem one. I feel dumb because I don't understand word problems. When I see other people doing word problems, I feel dumb. Sometimes I see people having trouble, I feel a little better. Oh. Isn't that gorgeous? It's like, no, it's not just me. I love this one. She says, when I first started doing word problems, I thought they were like the torture of my life. And I know the way torture is felt very close to teacher. I would get so nervous I wouldn't know what to do. But now I know that they can be hard, but nothing to worry about. 1, find out what you have to do. 2, choose a strategy and find out how to go about doing it. 3, solve it. 4, check your answer. 5, recheck it. By following the steps, I feel fine, not scared or something. So here we have someone who understands at a metacognitive level there are steps and you just need to follow the steps. And part of the steps is striving for accuracy by rechecking. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember saying to my son when he completed some homework one evening when he was young, I said, have you checked it? He looked at me and said, that's the teacher's job. He's still alive. I was like, what? It's not the teacher's job, but that was his perception. Because it wasn't talked about in class that you recheck and strive for accuracy. He said, no, that's the teacher's job. I don't have to do that. So, what we want to see is that growth over time. We want to see them getting better and keeping that evidence. So that's how we know they're getting better. We know they're getting better when we keep evidence of what they've been doing and even allow them to keep that evidence. So, please turn to somebody close to you, and as you reflect on your students that you've got right now, how might you collect evidence of the growth? Or maybe you need to think about the class that you've got going to start for next year. How might you collect that evidence to show that they're getting better at the habits of mind? Turn to the person next to you. Go.
we just started the year and they have previous that's the whole night. And at the end of the year, and we do it again.
And thank you. So, we started on Monday and this session with asking that question about who are your students becoming because of the teaching and learning that you're doing in your classroom. And who do you want them to become as you start focusing and thinking about your class for next year? Who do you want them to become? What do you want them to be able to do and be because of the teaching and learning that you are putting in place for them in your classroom? And it takes that being clear on the why, the reason, knowing that you've got an incredible resource of the habits of mind to help you, knowing that there are certain ways that we can implement that in the rules of the game to be able to make that happen, knowing that it takes repetition, takes reflection and feedback, and then it also allows us to see the results and see those results continually growing and growing and growing as we keep working with them. So, you know, being a teacher is such a privilege. It's a incredible profession, and I love this quote: education is not a filling of the pail, but a lighting of the fire. And it's like, it's our job as teachers to be able to help these students to be the best they can be, get them excited about learning. That when you find wonderment and awe in learning, they will find wonderment and awe in learning. When you get excited about the little things, they will get excited about the little things. By the way, wonderment and awe is the only habit you can't teach. Art Costa says it's caught, not taught. Can't teach it, but if you get excited, they'll get excited. So out of these, our ideas, we want to light this flame to help them be able to get unstuck when they're stuck, to be able to know what to do when they don't know what to do, to be able to face the challenging world that they're going to go into, which will have roadblocks, which will have bumps and turns and twists and lots of side streets that will tempt them down. And I believe that every teacher makes every other profession possible. That's what you do every single day. You make every other profession possible. What a privilege to be at the forefront of developing not only every other profession, but a nation of students who are going to go and make a difference in the world, who are going to go, and it's not just Brazil anymore, is it? Watch Mike from Instagram, you know, he's made an impact in the world with an intention that he wanted to do something that was global, and how he talked about how important it was that he had that bilingual education, then he had that bigger view. So you make every other profession possible. I once saw a story that said, be nice to your kids. They can choose your rest home, like your retirement home. They choose where you're going to go. If they don't have you at your home. But I think being nice to our children doesn't mean give them everything they want. I think being nice means hold those boundaries and allow them to learn. I think nice means helping them to be the best they can be and navigating them through the hard so they can get to the easy, giving them the skills to do that. So it's about developing these lifelong learners, this L to the power of 3, through the habits of mind. And Art Costa says, he says, what if in 500 years' time, what do you mean 500 years' time? He said, I won't be around in 500 years' time, you won't be around in 500 years' time. And he said, yes, but think of the cathedrals in Europe that took 500 years to build. He said, who held that vision? Who held the vision for maybe 25 generations of people, of families, to be able to build something so majestic? And so Art Costa said to me, he said, what if in 500 years' time, everybody on this planet, and he means everybody, could listen with understanding and empathy? He said, would the world be a different place? What if everybody on this planet persisted for things that matter? What if everybody could think flexibly? What if everybody could embrace the 16 habits of mind? Would the world be a better place? And as Art Costa asked me many years ago now to help be that next generation to continue his vision, with tears rolling down both our faces, I accepted that challenge. But I can't do it alone. What if you are a teacher who accepts that challenge and you continue that growth of those habits of mind? What a difference, what a legacy in the world we will continue to make. So please, as you leave here and you continue working with the habits of mind, and this isn't goodbye for the whole faculty, because I will be working with you, with your habits of mind leaders. I'll hopefully have the opportunity to come back and continue this journey with you. But as you do, please continue in your classrooms to help make the world more thoughtful. Thank you.